Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wise Tips. Eduardo, how are you doing today?
Doing really well and excited to share a bunch of new stuff with our crowd. This one, it's a very, very good one. Suggestions, of course, from our users. This is our last webinar. And if you have stallions, you receive breeding contracts, you should take a look at this one because it's going to help you big time.
Definitely. Well, we'll jump right into it because I think we've got a lot to talk about. So today we want to talk about and highlight really some of the new features we had here in the Stallion Management module. This is not a complete list. We just wanted to highlight this specific feature here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us, review those lists of new features, and give us a call. But again, here's kind of the main one we want to talk about today, and it has to pertain to this customer profile update. So a big thing from that wish list webinar that you guys asked us to add was this idea that we wanted customers to be able to add their own horses to the file, or patients to their file, and then also the ability to request breeding contracts. So again, that's what we're kind of going to be going over today. And also, of course, how those then come and translate over to, once they make those requests, how they translate over into our desktop application. And of course, things we need to do to make sure that are set up to allow these our users and clients of our users to do this.
Our understanding is that, of course, we will never kill 100% of the phone calls, but if we can decrease the number of calls and expedite the process, especially things that are very predictable, streamlining the communication between you and your customers, especially for misunderstanding when they're spelling out the name of the mares, registration numbers. Is this together, separate, two N's, two T's, ing? So there's always, give your customers the ability for them to fill out the forms, have the independence if they want to do it at 8 o'clock in the night or 9 p.m. in the next morning, you're going to have your request. So whatever we can do to expedite the process and decrease the phone calls, I think it's a good process. And I think this module here, at first glance, I could not grasp where we were going with this, but today I say yes, this is pretty cool, and I like where it's going.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get right into it. So the first thing, again, we're going to talk about is this customer profile update. So where to find this? So this is, of course, in the desktop application. I've gone into a customer file, and I've gone into that account. You can see here up at the top, there's a couple new buttons here. One of here I've had highlighted is the Send Profile Update Invitation. It's right next to the Send e-billing, works the exact same way. It'll go ahead and it will send an email to that client to go ahead and invite them to update their profile. So I'm going to now go ahead and show. So we went ahead and clicked on that, and now we come over here to the customer side, and we receive
go back a little bit. Just I'd like to make one comment on that one, please.
Definitely.
So you guys understand, each customer, when you go to the account individually, will have what we call a token. Therefore, it's an encrypted number. When you click on this message, on this button, the customer is going to show the email. Rachel is going to show you in a few seconds. The customer is going to receive, and each one of your customers is going to receive encrypted individual token, which is secure. And we took care of that part for you. But the only thing that I'd like to remind you, and we can go over that in another Wise Tips, is that to go to the customer file and then customer account is how you do this on an individual basis. It is also possible to do this in a massive way. So in Wise Option modules, especially under the reports where you have your email blasts, you can, in the beginning of the season, just grab all your customers and give them the opportunity to update their profile. So you can send to all your customers. Here today, we're going to show you how to do on an individual basis, but just keep in mind that you can do this in a massive way. And besides, of course, the exposing and making requests for new breeding contracts, take the opportunity in your letter to create the incentive for your customers to go ahead and take a look at the other records in the customer profile that will be available there. because you can be killing several birds with the same stone. You can update their address, their email address, the physical address, different from the mailing address, as well as the credit card on file. So we are going to focus today on how to get extra stuff like the breeding contracts and patient files, but keep in mind that everything will be in the same scope.
Yeah, good point. So we went ahead and we sent this profile invitation. So next thing moving on here, we're going to talk about is, of course, then on the customer side of things, they receive an email that looks like this. This, of course, is customizable. This is just a default template that we selected, that when you send the email, this is what it'll look like. You'll notice it's very similar to the e-billing default template. Again, if you'd like to go ahead and customize what this looks like, you can go right ahead, of course, and do so. But you just go ahead and they would click this link just like they would to pay their bill, except this time it says click here to update profile online.
That link you guys see over there is where behind we put the encrypted code individually. So the program is smart enough to know each client, each one of your customers. The link is going to look the same, but the encryption key that is behind is going to be different.
Yeah. And so next, after they go ahead and they click on this, this is one file, as Eduardo said. This, of course, profile update has many more things to this, including updating phone numbers, email addresses, etc. This is one new frame to this profile update, which is the patient files. So here the customer can actually see the patient files that is linked to their customer file in Wise Option. You'll notice here they can only see the name of the patient and whether they are active or not. They cannot see any of the other information available there on the patient profile that you actually enter. So just as kind of a little heads up there. And then of course you'll notice they're highlighted in red, that top icon there that has the add button, that they can actually add a new patient to their customer file.
It's one of those opportunities where you guys will be literally putting your customers to work for you, because they will be filling out the forms. There will be several of misspellings avoided, which is naturally a nightmare during the registration process later down the road when you have your foals. But it's something really quite simple, and let the customer do the job for you. Just by doing this, it's not automatically entered. Rachel is going to show you, but they are doing simply gets into a kind of a limbo place waiting for your approval. But at least they can expose the new horse file to you so you can take a look, make your modification, and move on.
Yep. So next, again, when they click that add button, this is what the form they'll see. Asks for things like their registered name. Made sure we went and said that, not the barn name, the registered name, registration number, of course, sex, date of birth, species, color, job purpose, breed association, etc.
If there's anything else we need to add in the future, of course, this is version number 1. Just let us know any improvement that we can do here, and we will do for you. But that's the basics, at least the minimum information. We are not trying to make things too complicated to your customers either. So the cleaner, the better. But at least it has the basic information, the minimal, for us to move the process ahead.
Yes, definitely. Moving on here, again, as I said before, this is not obviously the whole thing. This is just a screenshot of part of it. Again, moving on past that list of patients, you'll then have this top frame that is the patient file pending. So if they, again, click that add button, add a new patient pending, they can see that, yes, they did add that patient and it is currently pending, waiting your approval, which, like I said, we'll talk about here in a minute. Now I'd like to turn your attention now to the bottom one after that, which is the breeding contract request pending. So again, this is where your customers can come here and go ahead and add a request for a breeding contract.
By default, this frame will not be there. There are a few steps down the road that Rachel prepared for you guys. So we will not confuse your current clients. If they go to your profile update, there is existing, it's not going to show there yet. They will be able possibly to see the patient files where they can expose, but the breeding contract, there are a few extra steps you have to go for that frame to show. So just be aware that if you don't want to use that feature, which is totally optional, you can do, but if you don't want to use it, it will not show there because we don't want to create confusions either.
Right. Yeah. So if you guys don't use, I know some places out there don't use the breeding contracts form and WISE option. That's all right. Again, like Eduardo said, this will default not show until, like I said, we go ahead and meet those requirements, which I'm going to talk later down the road about. So to add a breeding contract, again, they're just going to click that blue plus and the similar frame to the patient profile update. Now you have a new breeding contract request, some very basic things, mare name, stallion name, ship to, and the, of course, options there. And of course, there's just the save there, which will then make it show in their pending. And again, we're going to talk about what that looks like for you on the user side.
Like the patient file, it's version number 1. If we need to make this better, as you guys start experience this new form, we'll be there for you.
So now, again, I've gone ahead and I've added a patient file, and I've also added a breeding contract request. So you can see now I have my horse Sparkles as a pending patient file, and then I also have a breeding contract request that is also pending. So again, this is all now talking about your client's view. Now we're going to kind of start flipping over into now what you're seeing on your end for this. Of course, you'd like to be notified and make sure when people try and add a horse or a breeding contract request. So we've gone ahead and done that in the form of email. So you get things like these email notifications.
A very good summary, so you know something happened in the cloud. Of course, we're going to have some flags and sign in the program as well, but on top of that, we would like to notify you through an extra email message.
Yes. So this one is the email message for the pending profile update for the patient. And if I go one over, this is the email for the contract request that is pending. So again, you have a nice summary of all the information that was entered. And again, a good clue for you that you need to kind of come over here and hit the system.
There you go. I like that one. Let's let them know about that.
So this one here is, of course, the view of the desktop. So when you log into the desktop application, this is what you're going to see when you have pending profile updates. You can see now the patient file icon is turned red, and there's a number 1 underneath it, indicating that there's one profile update that needs your approval. Same thing in the Stallion Management. It's turned red, and there is a number indicating the number of profile updates that need your approval.
So in a nutshell, this is what I meant about the limbo place. It's not because the customer went to your, click on the email message that you sent to them and they did a request that it's automatically entered into the program. We say, okay, we got, and we made very clear statements on the profile update to make very clear to your customers that by entering that new patient and by entering that new contract does not mean necessarily they're gonna get the contract.
Yes.
They're simply making a request. So in a nutshell, basically, we're gonna show you how to set up the system so these features are available online. You send an email inviting your customers. So each customer individually has its own link, its own token, its own encrypted key to start the process. When they click there, they go on the browser. In the browser, they will be able to add new patients, add new breeding contracts, and that's going to send you an email. And once you receive the email or go into the program, you're going to have this visual flags telling you that somebody did something online that is waiting for your approval.
Yep. So now we're kind of going to go and look into what do these look like on your end of the user. So here at the top, this first one here is the patient profile update. So there's my horse Sparkles. So me as the user, I can come into the desktop application, go into those pending patient updates and see there that this owner had added Sparkles to their list of patients. I can do two things with this. At the very end, you'll notice there are two options. I can add this as a new patient, or I can link it to an existing patient. So of course, we know that sometimes clients, they have so many horses, they didn't realize that this one was already added, or maybe you have it under a different owner, so it's not viewing on theirs, but for whatever reason, you already have this patient in your system. So we do give you the option to go ahead and link that information to an already existing patient profile of yours. Or of course, if you truly don't have that patient in your system, go ahead and just add it as a new patient. So again, one click away from just going ahead and installing it, whether it needs to be added or whether it needs to be linked to a new patient. And in a very similar manner, on the bottom there's your pending breeding contract request. So there you have the option there to go ahead and add that as a new breeding contract. One option I didn't show, which is actually on the bottom of this screen there, which you can't see, of course, in this screenshot, there is an option to go ahead and discard that breeding contract request. So if, your books were closed for that stallion, and you need to go ahead and, you call the person and let them know and say, hey, I'm sorry, we're not accepting any more contracts for a stallion. His books are closed. You can just go ahead and you can discard that breeding contract request as well.
Once the breeding contract and the patient file are in the system that you have accepted, you could probably go ahead and create a form letter in your breeding contracts and select that breeding contract. And from there, just send a customized letter saying, thank you for your contract. We're going to send you the PDF for signature, whatever. The point is that the contract is already in the system. You can create form letters for that. As always, if it's bad news, like you either need more information or you're not accepting the contract, we would recommend, of course, a phone call. But at the things that we are trying to put at your fingertips, flexibility on how to manage those requests.
Yep, definitely. So of course, now we need to talk about, all right, well, if you would like to make these options available to your customers, how do we set this up? So of course, the patient profile update, that is already in your customer's profile invitation. Right now we're talking about how, if you would like to set up so that your customers can request a breeding contract request online in their profile update, this is how you go ahead and you need to set this up. So the two places you need to look is, of course, under Stallion Management. First place is going to be the Stallions for Breeding Contract Requests online. The second thing we're going to talk about is the ship to list.
Up to the moment that you don't have any stallion in your system set to be able or to be present in the list of possible stallions for breeding contracts, that frame is not going to show in the customer profile at all. As soon as you have marked your first stallions to be present in your list of possible contracts requests, that's when you start using the module automatically. So that's the only thing you have to do. Set up your stallions and, of course, set up the list of places that you have relationship to, that you are willing, kind of a credential you're giving to the places you are willing to ship to.
Yes, definitely. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Stallions for Breeding Request Contracts online. So like Eduardo said, again, default, your customers on their profile update will not see the breeding contract request frame unless you have at least one stallion in this list. So when you click on this, you're going to see a list like this. Yours will probably be much larger than mine. But here on the left, you have a left screen and a right screen. On the left screen, you're going to see a list of all of your stallions in your system. And so what you can do is you can select the stallions that you stand or that you manage contracts for and you would like your customers to be able to request contracts for, select them and move them over onto the right side where it says registered stallions. So there, again, as soon as you even move one over, all your customers on that pending will be able to see that breeding contract request frame on their profile update.
I love that tool because you can do multiple stallions at once and have a clear picture of the stallions that are available in the list for your customers.
Yep. And so the other place we talked about was the ship to list. So this place here, this is where we're going to allow you, on the left side of the screen, again, you have a whole list of all your customers in your system. The right side of the screen are your registered ship to facilities. So the reason we did this was because a couple of reasons, but one of which, like Eduardo said, was to make sure that, we only gave the options of if there are only certain facilities you're willing to ship to, you want to make sure that, of course, those are the only options available for them to select. The other reason, of course, is that as that person is searching for their shipping facility, we didn't want them to be able to see, of course, all your other customers that aren't shipping facilities, that are just your personal customers. Of course, we didn't want them to be able to see that. So this is your way of being able to control, again, certain registered ship to facilities that you have approved, or of course, just your normal any facility so they don't see all of your customers. One important thing to note about this as well is even if you are not using the pending profile, if you're not using the breeding contract requests online, if you do use the breeding contracts in Wise Option, because we linked this with being able to, of course, add from a pending request to a actual breeding contract and it make the breeding contract, you'll notice there's a new field when you go to just add a breeding contract in Wise Option manually. You'll notice there's a new field under there to ship to. So you want to make sure, again, even if you're just using the breeding contracts, or you don't want your customers to be able to request one online, so you don't make any registered stallions, that's fine. But make sure you come here and you go ahead and you add your ship to facilities so you have that option as you make your breeding contracts. You have ship to facilities there in the options.
As we go by, you notice that there are, of course, the most popular shipping to places, the reproduction centers, and I think that list is going to be, as thorough as possible, especially for your customers. Those names will be there. Sometimes, however, you're going to find situations where your customer might say, I haven't decided yet, or ship to myself, or I don't know. So one way to get around of this, you could, in your system, create those 3 fake customer files and put some dashes up front, and the dashes are just a simple trick to put those 3 as first options in your list. So you could create one that says, I haven't decided yet, or another one that says, ship to myself, because of course you will not have all your customers in the list of most popular places you ship to.
Yes.
So the idea is to have a short list, at least as short as possible, for the places you have a relationship in a more custom basis. But if the customer has a new place or a specific place, you just can create one of those options. Or another idea would be something that, do according to my instructions in the comments, because I don't know if you noticed, in the breeding contract, there is a field for comments where your customers can give you special instructions about where to ship to. So if we can expedite the process of selecting the shipping to, that's great, because by selecting that in the patient file, that's the shipping to place that is associated to that patient. So that's going to expedite the process when you're creating your shipping requests in the future. But we wouldn't like to have a list that long, so we are giving you some ideas on how to work around those possible exceptions.
Yes, definitely. So as always, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We even have this new handy button, which I pointed out here, a screenshot of our homepage of our website that says current user quick help. Please, you can just go to wiseoption.com, click on that, and it's a really nice little platform for you to get help and get guided exactly where you need to be. So please come over to the website and contact me to go ahead, and if you need some training on these new features or you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call.
Don't be shy. If you just need 15 minutes of our attention, use that button to schedule a time. We are here for you.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that's about a wrap for what we're going to talk about today. I know this was a little bit longer, but I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us and popping on even for a little bit.
Give it a try. Most important is that, sometimes ideas come, and I'm so used to having things on both sides. Sometimes we have a project that we think, I don't know, and then it becomes a sensation. And as sometimes we have something that we say, wow, this is going to be so awesome, that at the end of the day, not quite so much. Only the practice will answer that question, which side the project is going to happen. At least we would love if you guys to give it a try and give us your feedbacks, and of course, any suggestions for improvements, because at the end of the day, this is there for you because of you. Thank you so much for your suggestions.
Yes, thank you all, and hope you all stay happy and healthy, and we'll see you soon.